Hi there, tonight I'm going to show you how we can do some urban form modelling based on densities of public transport, and we're going to do this from doing a walkability analysis through the Oran portal, and then from there we're taking that data to create a visual effect that we'll later use in 3ds Max to determine where our higher density development will occur. So a lot of this I've already sort of prepared just to make this video nice and short as possible, but basically what we've got here is our various walkabilities. So there's I've done 800 meters from each train station within the site. So as you can see, just doing it from the Oran portal, we see that you can't really, there's so much overlap that you can't really see what's going on at all. So it's worth taking it back out of Oran to create your. If you're doing it to this detail, I'm doing a lot of layers here, so it's worth taking it out of Oran. I would recommend going into Photoshop or Illustrator and creating a nice clean effect that you can sort of edit and. Ooh, sorry, I've got some water areas there. But so basically, these are all the walking catchments, and I've done them this way so that I can create a nice gradient effect. So basically, that was bringing them into Illustrator and giving them a gradient effect, and the darker areas are the higher intensities of walkability. So we want to create a multiplier, so then that way you see that overlap happening here. So you start to see that this here is the tram corridor, and then these big, more swollen areas are our train stations. So just to give you a bit of context, that was our green spaces and our property parcels. So you can sort of see more about the site there. And the reason I've done those green spaces there is because the idea of reducing the heights of the buildings within the proximity to the green spaces to reduce the sort of the overshadowing. So just sort of inverting that and putting a glow effect on around the green spaces to result in a less intense density directly surrounding those areas. So basically, the next step after you've created your visual diagram of the walkability catchments, we want to bring that into our AutoCAD file, and that command there is the image attach. So I've already done this just to speed up the video, but basically you'd attach your image, and then you want to align it. See this being highlighted, they're underneath the image here, but they're our green spaces, so they line up nicely with those dark holes, which are obviously won't be built on because they're the green spaces. So essentially what we want to do is we want to draw a box around this, just so we can get everything matching up together between AutoCAD and 3ds Max. Close. Okay, so what we need to do is just get up the properties window. So our raster image is what we were looking at. So coming back to 3ds Max, I've done my populate terrain to create my meshes, and the ones that I've left are just the sort of the smaller ones that can be greebled or extruded without having to do a small mesh there. Otherwise you're going to get too much detail in the greeble and have very sort of almost too fine-grained buildings. So what we want to do to start lining up our walkability is to create a box. Yeah, we'll create a box so we can make a material of our visual. So let's just make the height of that 0, and we want to copy and paste the height and width. So, why are you doing that? raster image. Okay, so the width, we're going to copy. Paste and make sure you punch in millimeters there, and the same for the height, which is in AutoCAD World our length of the box. So the problem here is that this box might not necessarily be lined up with our image in AutoCAD land. So what we need to do is W block that box that we drew. So let's just click on our line, our polyline. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Close that. Okay, so we want to just make sure I've got that correctly selected. Okay, we want to W block that. So that we can import this into CAD, and we can move the box that we into 3ds Max, and we can move the box so it's all lined up with our map. So basically we want to import our lovely new block. I'm going to rescale it. So there it is here. So what we want to do is click on our other box we've drawn. We want to turn our snaps on. Say endpoints. We want to move our box so it lines up nicely there. Okay. So basically let's get out our material editor. If he wants to wake up. Ooh, playing funny buggers. Let's go to compact material editor. So basically I have loaded that, so let's get this happening. Okay, so I have already created a new material, and I've put our walkability visual into the diffuse. So we want to bring that here. Let's just close that. We don't want to use real world mapping. There we go. So we can see our site on top of the walkability intensities. So then what we want to do after that, we might hide that box just for now. Actually, before we do that, we'll put a UVW map on there, so that we can eventually we can use that. We don't want that. Okay. So I'm going to hide that. Now I'm going to grab these, our meshes, and then let's just do a quick greeble. And just for the sake of the video, I won't go in and clean them up too much. I'll just there's a few that sort of haven't worked out there, but let's just keep pushing through for the sake of this tutorial. So we want to use our displace modifier, but just quickly I'll just let's say minimum of our greeble is 3 floors, and our max can be 10 floors or so. Okay, so from there, to really get our densities happening, we want to use a displace, and we're just going to come back over to our material editor, and under our maps, which we've got loaded, we're going to drag in our map for our displace, and what we're going to do is we're going to acquire the coordinates from this one, and we're going to acquire that absolutely. And then we're going to change our strength, so let's just make it 200 meters, for example. Oop, sorry, I've made a little mistake there. I'm going to select our tops. That was the missing component there, but let's just do our displace. We'll keep our original geometry. Bring it across our map. Let's again acquire that. 200 meters or so. And there we go. We can see that our buildings have been densified in those higher intensities of walkability around the train and tram network. So you can kind of see that urban form sort of swelling and dipping, particularly here just based on the proximities to the transport. So I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial, and then from there we can edit these polygons and sort of flatten out these roofs and make it a bit more realistic, but it does look quite cool, as the kids say, to have it nice and swelling, and yeah, it kind of gets that real natural sort of effect happening. Yeah, the high densities and the high intensity of walkability, and also you see the urban form kind of dipping here where there's a bit of open space due to the blur effect that we've created in Photoshop. There we go. Thank you for watching. It's been a pleasure.